All right, so we're now going to go over how to for your mini assessment on Wednesday. What questions you'll need to know in order to be mastery. On this worksheet number 2, I do expect that by the end of the unit we'll be able to do all these questions. But for now, um, the ones that we're going to go over in this video are the ones that you will have to have mastered by Wednesday, and then as we move on, the rest of these questions throughout this worksheet, number 2 specifically, are ones that I would expect you to be able to do. All right, so when we're solving these, um, the first thing that remember that we do is let's develop a plan. Um, and once you get the hang of this, you don't need to do this. It's just until you do, this can allow for you to say, well, if I can create this plan, then I know what I'm doing. And remember, we're never going to deal with parentheses or exponents as how they truly are right now. That's something that you'll be learning how to solve later on. For now, we're only going to be solving and working with problems that are dealing with multiplying, dividing, addition, subtraction. And when we're solving, remember, we're doing our PEMDAS in reverse. So draw that arrow going up, reminding you that we're actually starting from the bottom and working our way up. Then we ask ourselves, what operation is being done to my variable? Well, 2x, I know that means 2 times x, so that's multiplying. And I see plus 3, so it means addition. So I'm going to cross out these two here. Then I ask myself, okay, well, what is the opposite of multiplying? What's the inverse? How do I undo multiplying? And that's do division. How do I undo addition? Well, that's do subtraction. So if you can do this, this question can be solved. You just created the plan, you identified everything, you know what the opposite is, and we're literally just going through now and doing the opposite or inverse of each one. So since I'm starting from the bottom, I need to get rid of addition first. And we know that we get rid of addition through subtraction. So I say, okay, well, what number am I adding? Well, I'm adding 3 to it. So to get rid of plus 3, I subtract 3. And remember, if 2 is equal to 2 and I subtract 3 from one side, well, negative 1 does not equal 2. So in order for me to maintain that equal balance, I need to make sure I'm subtracting that same number from both sides. So negative 1 still is equal to negative 1. So when I subtract 3 from one side, I have to subtract 3 from the other. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. It zeroes it out. And that's what our inverse operations do. So now we have 2x is equal to 11 minus 3 is equal to 8. And now I can cross it out because I did it. And now I move on and say, okay, well, the next one I said was multiplying. To get rid of multiplying is division. Well, what number am I multiplying by? Well, it's 2x, so I'm multiplying by 2. So it means I need to divide by 2. And 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4. So there's my final answer. And I can plug it back into check. Does 2 times 4 plus 3, well, what does that equal? Well, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is equal to 11. And that's what we said it was in the beginning. All right, so for each of these, if you are struggling, write out this plan. Set up the plan. And if you can identify what's being done and you know what the opposite of multiplying, dividing, addition, subtraction is, then you can solve this problem. All right, the next one that we're going to do in this one is number 4. And the reason why is because I want to make sure that we're identifying the number that's actually being multiplied. So once again, I'll write PEMDAS out. For now, I'm never going to worry about my parentheses or my exponent because that's not going to be anything that we have to do in this class. And we're going to then start from the bottom and work our way up. So what is being done? Well, this is a positive 7. Even though I see minus 2x, that's not subtracting from the x. This is a positive 7. I can rewrite it as negative 2x plus 7. So this means that this positive 7 that's not being multiplied is representing addition. And this is minus 2x. Well, minus 2x means that we're multiplying x with negative 2. So this is not subtraction, but it is multiplying. And then from here, I'll cross these out because I don't need to do them. Well, the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of multiplying is division. Well, this was a positive 7, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And this is a common mistake that people make. It is minus 2x, so it's our coefficient. The number that's being multiplied to the x is negative 2. So when you go to this next step, make sure you're writing negative 2x. And 13 minus 7 is 6. So we know that that canceled out to be 0. So I did this, I could cross it out. So now I'm saying, okay, multiplying. Well, what number was I multiplying? Negative 2. So then what number do I need to divide by to undo that? Is negative 2. And when I do 6 divided by negative 2, x is then equal to negative 3. And we can check our work. 7 minus 2 times negative 3. Well, what is that equal to? Well, negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, and 7 plus 6 is 13, which is what it had. All right, so now we're going to jump to a different worksheet because we're just going to go through each of the different type of questions that you have to know for Wednesday. All right, so this was worksheet 1, and I want to go through question number 4, just to make sure that you guys are identifying, well, what does a fraction mean? Like, what operation is that? When we say m over 5, what operation are we talking about? Well, we know fraction can represent division. So when we do our PEMDAS in reverse here, I'm going to cross out the P and the E. We're starting from the bottom, working our way up. Well, that fraction means division, and it's plus 9, so it's addition. So I'll cross out these two. What's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. What's the opposite of division? Multiply. So now we're going to go through and solve. Well, what are we adding by? 9. So I need to subtract by 9. So now I have m over 5 is equal to 11 minus 9, which is 2. So I can cross that out. And now we're going to go to our division. Well, the opposite of division is multiplying. Well, it's m over 5 or m divided by 5. So then I need to multiply each side by 5. Because when we multiply and divide by the same number, well, 5 divided by 5 is equal to 1. So they're going to cancel it out and give us one of our variable. And now 5 times 2 is 10. And that gives us our answer. We can plug it back in to check. Well, 10 divided by 5 plus 9, what does that equal to? 10 over 5 is 2. 2 plus 9 is 11, which is what it had. All right, so now for this one, this is where we then learned a few more steps. Everything comes back to the questions that we just did, where you're isolating or undoing what's being done to a variable. But now, every question that we get to, because we learned this, is first we're going to look to simplify. And simplifying means that we multiply whatever we can, if it's there, and we also then look to combine like terms. And then after we do that, then let's look to where we isolate, which is in PEMDAS in reverse. All right. So from here, now we look to see, okay, is there anything for us to simplify? And remember, multiplying means parentheses. That's something that we learned this year. When we see parentheses, it's telling us to multiply or to distribute. So yeah, I said we're never going to deal with parentheses here because the reason is we're always going to distribute what we have. We're going to get rid of them to make it easier for us. And then we'll learn how to solve what's inside of parentheses later on. We'll learn other methods next year, or maybe later on this year if we have time as well. So we look to simplify first. So I see the parentheses, so it's telling me to multiply. So then I'm going to distribute this 4 in. Well, 4 times 2, that gives me 8. And 4 times negative x, remember that's a negative 1x. So we multiply the numbers out front. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, so it's negative 4x. So now after I do that part of the simplifying, I look to see, okay, is there any like terms for me to combine? There's not. I have a constant, I have an x, they're not like terms. So now I move on to what we were just doing, which is isolating in our PEMDAS in reverse. We're never going to deal with these for right now. We're going in reverse. Oops, let me just draw that a little bit neater. We're going in reverse. So we're looking to see, okay, what's being done? This is positive 8, so it's addition, and it's negative 4 times x, so that's multiplying. So I know the opposite of multiplying is division, the opposite of addition, subtraction. So now we'll go through and solve. So we'll subtract 8 from both sides. Negative 4x is equal to 16. We did that. Now we're going to get rid of our multiplying through dividing. So we're multiplying by negative 4, so we'll divide by negative 4, so x is then equal to negative 4. And we can check our work. 4 times 2 minus x, which we just said is negative 4. See what that's equal to. A minus and negative, we know it turns to plus. So 4 times 6 is 24, which is what we had. All right, so now when we do number 2, we look and say, okay, what can we simplify first? Well, I see the parentheses. So once again, right away, I know I'm going to have to multiply. So I'm going to distribute this in. So now I get 6x plus 2 times 4x, which is 8x, and 2 times negative 1, which is minus 2. And now I did the multiplying. So now I look and say, okay, well, are there like terms? Well, yeah, I have two variables of the same here, x and x. So this one I do need to combine like terms first. And since we're not moving it to the other side of the equation, we do just add them as they are. And 6x plus 8x is 14x. Minus 2 is equal to 26. Once we do all this multiplying and combining like terms, then we're going to look and say, okay, well, our next step is isolating. So we're looking to do our PEMDAS in reverse. So once again, we don't need to worry about these two because we're getting rid of our parentheses with this first part. And we're looking to say, okay, well, what's being done? Multiplying 14x and subtracting. Inverse of subtraction is addition, and we know this is division. So now I'm just going to go ahead and solve. Well, what am I subtracting by? 2, so I'll add by 2. So now 14x is equal to 28. I'm multiplying by 14, so I'll divide by 14. So x is then equal to 2. And let's check our work. 6 times 2 plus 2 times 4 times 2 minus 1. And see, what does this equal? We have to do inside our parentheses first. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. So it becomes 6 times 2 plus 2 times 7. 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 7 is 14. 12 plus 14 is 26, which is what we had.